And welcome into Twins Takes this afternoon. I'm Twin Central, joined by Troy, Falvey's Mattress, Twins Insider, and myself, Twins Central, as we're going to break down the Chicago White Sox series, as well as a plethora of injury updates and check in on Royce Lewis's great stretch at AAA. Fellas, how you guys doing?
I'm doing great. The Twins got a big series win today, got revenge after a rough series last week, so hope they can keep it up this week.
Yeah, it really was a good bounce back series after we struggled against the Chi Sox in Chicago. So good to see us get the series win.
I'm doing great. It's a great week. It was a short week with the holiday, and it's always fun to beat the Sox. How are you doing, Central?
I'm doing good. They ended the series on a little bit of a low note, but the first two games were really fun. It was good to see them bounce back after a rough week when they played them last week. As we mentioned, the Twins went 2-1, but there are a ton of updates, so let's jump right into them with the news.
Breaking news.
Well, I got some bad news for you.
Extra.
Good news, everyone.
It's time for the news.
The Twins made another addition to their bullpen. He pitched this afternoon. Right-handed pitcher Justin Lawrence was acquired from the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday or 2 days ago, I believe. Cody Funderburk was optioned. The Twins just traded cash for him, so they didn't give up any prospect or player in return. He had a rough year so far this year for the Pirates, 0-2 in 22 innings, has an ERA of 5.32. He does strike out quite a few guys, but as we saw today, he struggles with control. Hit two guys today and also walked another. Did end up with a scoreless inning, though.
Yeah, they actually had a little segment on the show or the game today about how they had managed to get Yoendrys Gomez's control under control with some lower body stuff. So I think they're hoping to do that again with Lawrence because he has very good stuff. You're going to give him a couple weeks, try to see if you can get him in the strike zone, and if he can, he could be really good. We saw it, and if he doesn't get under control, he'll probably be DFA'd.
Yeah, Yoendrys Gomez is kind of, the model you hope that Justin Lawrence can become. And Justin Lawrence has had really high K/9 numbers in his career, and this is a bullpen that really needs the strikeouts. So as long as Lawrence can get strikeouts, can stay in command of the zone, that's pretty much all you can hope for if you're the Twins right now. And if it doesn't work out, well, then it happened. He's going to fall into what other veterans in the pen are going to do and get DFA'd and cut.
Yeah, I don't have real high hopes for him just because that control is so bad. He did have one really good year in 2023. That was when he was a part of the Colorado Rockies, and he was good last year in limited innings for the Pirates, so he has been good before, but throughout his career, it's been more bad than good, but he does have intriguing stuff. So like both of you mentioned, if they can get the control under control, then he could be a useful reliever. Speaking of relievers making a comeback, Cole Sands began a rehab assignment yesterday for the St. Paul Saints. He threw a clean inning. Did have a strikeout, and we'll also have many more injury updates later in the show, but wanted to get this one in here as it should probably only be one more outing, maybe two for Cole Sands before rejoining the Twins bullpen.
Yeah, for me, Cole Sands, I kind of just almost forgot about the guy. I mean, he went down pretty early in the year, and he had been struggling up to that point. So, I mean, hopefully his struggles were injury-related, and we can get him back to 2023 form where he was a solid relief pitcher. I've been excited about him. I thought he'd be a back-end guy for us coming into this year, just with how depleted our bullpen is. So, I mean, we'll see what happens when he gets back up.
Yeah, touching on Sands, his velocity was just down a bit throughout the start of the year, and hopefully that does tick back up a bit. You saw the velocity has ticked up with a few guys, specifically with Anthony Banda, and that's just what you hope for with Cole Sands. Maybe not reach what the heights of what he threw last year, but a couple years ago, but maybe closer to 95, 96 with his fastball. And that's just exactly what you're hoping for if you're the Twins, that he gets back to that decent velocity and he can become a reliable back-end guy again.
Yeah, there was a graphic on the game today on Twins TV that showing the difference of the bullpen's velocity in the first month of the season versus May and now a few games in June. I believe it was up over a mile an hour. It's nearing 95, which has to be near the league average. So that was something we talked about early in the year, an area they need to improve. Banda's velo has come out of nowhere. Andrew Morris touched 100 miles an hour the other day. Yoendrys Gomez throws decently hard, so they are managing to make strides in that aspect. And now some updates on the hitting side, some very interesting notes courtesy of Declan Goff and Theo Tollefson. Luke Keeschel and Royce Lewis are both taking reps at first base pregame, whether that's at Target Field or CHS Field, respectively, for those two guys. We saw Orlando Arcia play first base today. I believe it was the second time he's played there for the Twins. And then Royce Lewis also started at second base today for the Saints.
And yeah, that's interesting for me to point out because Royce Lewis hasn't played second base ever in his career, especially at the big league level. And, just it's interesting they're experimenting with, Arcia at first base today. I know he's primarily been a middle infielder, but, you're kind of expecting like Arcia plays first base today. But when Lewis comes up, he's been trained at first base recently. You hope that he can take that first base platoon or getting back to the second base, or hopefully you can fill in at second base. And then you see Luke Keeschel play at first base and you see them on the right side of the infield. You don't want to see that now, especially with Keeschel being so early in his big league career. But, it's interesting that they are trying to, see what they can have with Lewis in the field.
I think it's important, obviously, just to go this way. I mean, you saw it this series. You had a backup shortstop playing shortstop, and you had a backup shortstop playing first base, both of whom are 30 or older. It's important to get into the near future where you have homegrown, real young players with real potential all across the field. So if guys have to move around, if that means, Lewis at second, Keeschel at first, if that means Mendez at first and outfield, if it meant Keeschel in left field, it's however that looks, it's important to get like real young players with potential all over the diamond.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the Royce Lewis aspect of this over Luke Keeschel. I just think there's no scenario where you're playing Keeschel at first base if second base doesn't work out for him, which that remains to be seen. I think we all think that he's going to end up in a corner outfield spot, likely left field. But that remains to be seen, I guess, as Troy's re-jumping in here. Sorry for the issues that he had with his mic, but hopefully those are all worked back out. Byron Buxton also returned to the field this series. He played center field both Tuesday and Wednesday. Cody Clemens played first yesterday, and then Arcia, as we mentioned today. Josh Bell should be back at DH, which I think we will all be happy about.
Yeah, the Josh Bell at first base is just not a fun watch, nor is Cody Clemens in center field, but it is kind of fun just to actually see him running out there because, he's not a center fielder. So it's really good to have Buck back in center and kind of get back to a somewhat normal defensive alignment.
Yeah, it is good to see, and it's also just fun to see Byron Buxton roaming center field. The attendance this week, not the best, but starting to creep up a little bit. 12K on Monday, 15,000 on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, the afternoon game drew 20,000. So good attendance Wednesday afternoon. The other days, not where the Twins likely want to be. Now we'll jump into our main topics here, and we have a ton of injury updates. These are courtesy of a few Twins writers, Aaron Gleeman of AaronGleeman.com, Declan Goff of Score North, and Dan Hayes of The Athletic. So follow those guys. I'm sure you do. If you're watching this show, you probably already know about them, but we want to give credit to them. The first one up here, Bailey Ober is going to be shut down for 10 to 14 days with that right flexor strain. He is going to get a second opinion. I haven't seen anything on that, how that's come back, but hopefully a shorter stint on the IL for Ober.
I believe it was reported by Dan Hayes that the Twins were like feeling good about it, which usually if they say that means that he's pretty much okay. Another one they're apparently feeling really good about is Kendry Rojas. He's feeling better, and the hope is for him to pitch pretty much as soon as he can, which is the middle of next week. Somewhere in that, he has to do 15 days, but he should be able to come off the list by about the 10th, about next Wednesday, is my understanding.
Yeah, and it's good that, Rojas quickly came back from his injury because, you kind of had a scare with, it was an elbow strain. People were a bit worried that it could be, worse than what it was. But thankfully, it seems like he's going to be coming back pretty quickly, kind of similar to what happened with Tosh Bradley at the beginning of last month. He went down with that injury, but luckily he was pretty much out and throwing in about a week or two. So it's kind of Rojas' situation is kind of similar to that. And similar with Ober, I don't know, when he will start throwing again, but thankfully, the UCL seems to be intact. It doesn't seem like a worse injury than what it is. So hopefully, the Twins' depth at pitching seems like it'll be back in order by the end of the month. You kind of have to survive these next few weeks, but thankfully it's not anything seriously long term, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, other than the Pablo injury, it seems like we've been dancing around Tommy John all year with our starters. So I'm just going to keep knocking on wood and hoping that these elbow inflammation injuries remain short term for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Another pitcher update here. Mick Abel, who the Twins haven't seen since mid-April, he threw a bullpen Tuesday, and he's supposed to face hitters tomorrow. That's Thursday. He obviously is not built up at all, having not pitched since April 14th. So it's likely going to be a few rehab starts for him. I think the hope, best case scenario, is maybe late June if everything goes right. Probably more likely into July.
Yeah, and I think that they should probably take their time a little bit with Abel in terms of his situation. He hasn't been built again, like you mentioned, he hasn't pitched since April, so it'll be a bit of a slower process for him at least. And it's almost kind of in line for where we expected him to be back. Hope be back maybe a little bit later, but hopefully he's starting to track back to pitching, and hopefully he doesn't suffer any setbacks because right now, he's if the Twins get him back and he starts pitching as he did at the beginning of the year, that could be a big boost. It's going to be a big boost to this staff.
100%. And I do just want to point out, because he's been out for a while, he's going to need, even if he's no setbacks, he's going to need a couple of rehab games, probably 2, 3, 4. So I believe he's not on the 60-day IL yet. So by the time he ever comes back, it will have been closer to 90 days. So I would expect him to go on the 60-day soon if he's not, because that's kind of the next way to get a 40-man spot, which is important to keep in mind for a guy like Kenley Culpepper. In other pitcher news, David Festa is going to resume throwing, but he's supposed to have a 3-week ramp up before any mound throwing. So that is theoretically kind of mid-July comeback when you put in some rehab, but he's gotten that stem cell, implant. I'm not so confident about him, I'll admit.
Yeah, I'm not either. Obviously, I hope it's not the case, but I'll believe he's back to pitching when I see him on the target field mound. This seems like just the way this injury's gone. It's not going to be a clean rehab. Maybe he'll resume throwing and then he'll get shut down again. Obviously, that's just speculation or, fearing the worst, but that's kind of the sense I've got from it. It was supposed to originally be, not a huge deal, and now he's missed the first 2 months of the year, and based off this information, he's going to miss at least one more if he's not even going to resume throwing from the mound for another 3 weeks. That puts us almost into July. And then assuming he comes back as a reliever, the rehab won't have to be real long if they want to throw him right back in to the Twins bullpen, but it's probably still going to be a few starts considering he hasn't thrown at all, even in spring training.
Yeah, and that's just a bummer. I mean, we all know what Festa has. He's got electric stuff. We thought he'd be a great back-end bullpen guy. So to see him just continually deal with his injury and just for it to keep dragging on it's really tough because, he has closer written all over him, at least to me.
100%. He's probably going to, I thought he might have been our second highest saves guy behind Marco Raya. I want to bring up a positive news on the position player side here. Walker Jenkins is going to be facing live pitching this week or late this week, and he's supposed to start a rehab assignment next week. And I kind of have a question off that. You look around the outfield, the lack of left-handed hitting outfielders, ironically, that we have right now. Is it going to be over or under 15 games after he's activated before he gets called up to the big league team? Because he would be one of their best players right now, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to probably go with a bit over. I don't think we see Walker Jenkins realistically, if he comes back from his injury, clean, no setbacks. I think we probably just only wait to see him until probably September. It feels like, the Twins are really taking their time with Jenkins even when he was healthy. And if say Matt Warner was struggling, he probably would have been one of the first guys up because they would have been desperate for that kind of power and athleticism in the outfield because Jenkins can also play center field as well. But I think they'll take the time. They'll take their time with him. I think I think he can be definitely impactful no matter when they call him up. But I think it seems to me like the vibe is that they're going to take their time with him.
Yeah, I think they'll take their time with him. I think 15 games is maybe a little aggressive, but I don't expect it, or at least I hope it's not more than 20, 25 games, because obviously the hope is he comes back, he hits right away, and he kind of forces their hand. That remains to be seen. Another guy who was forcing their hand before he slid into first base and hurt his hand, Emmanuel Rodriguez, he's still not close. He's another guy that could be eligible for the 60-day IL at some point if they do need that 40-man spot. He had surgery on May 20th, and the expectation is he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So he's only, 2 weeks into that process. So out for at least another month, and then he'll have to rehab as well, just like all these other guys. I know we've talked about it before, but A, what a stupid injury, and B, what an untimely injury.
And yeah, that it still just kind of sucks. You can't. There's no beating around the bush about it, about stupid how he got the injury was, and then just again the timing of when Wallner was struggling and he was about to get sent down, and then this happens. It's again, like, you can't stop talking. It's the thing, like, you can't stop talking. Like, you can't just believe that, like, this timing when he was about to come up and then this happens. Like, you still just can't believe it. Like, even a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, I mean, and he'll have a longer rehab, but I'm hoping what they do with him is it's just more of a major league rehab. When he's done rehabbing, he just gets the call up right away. I mean, he's shown plenty at AAA for me. He was killing the ball. He was playing solid field in the field, and he was running the bases pretty well. Let him rehab in the low minors and get him up at this point.
Yeah, hopefully that is what they decide to do. Another guy that could be an option here, likely before Walker Jenkins and Emmanuel Rodriguez, Alan Roden. He's tracking to start a rehab next week. He has that issue with his shoulder that he opted not to get surgery. I'll be keeping a close eye on this one because obviously it's known that Roden is, 25, 26 years old. He's too good for AAA. James Outman hasn't played all week other than late defensively or pinch hitting in some of these blowouts. So I think Roden is certainly a guy. If he is healthy, the shoulder feels good, he hits during his rehab, he's a guy that they could just strictly activate and call up straight to the big leagues.
Yeah, he would be more of a platoon bat, but I could really use his glove in the outfield. I see our guy Cy Louie in the chat talking about why does Derek Shelton hate Kreidler, and I kind of agree. It's kind of odd because Kreidler's a really good defensive player, so Roden might be a defensive player who they would actually let play, which you saw some bad outfield defense in this series. I was a big Roden fan in camp. I was a big Roden fan when they traded for him. He would be a really appreciated addition, hopefully relatively quickly, because he was tearing it up before he got hurt.
Yeah, and Kreidler has had a hot start offensively, but it's kind of cooled down, and with the sense that Derek Chilton doesn't want to play him every day, even though defensively he makes the team much better in the field, whether it's in middle of the infield or in the outfield. So Alan Roden's a guy that needs the playing time. He's the guy that needs to prove himself. At this point, he's kind of been like Austin Martin's camp from a couple of years ago, where you'd much rather have him play because he hasn't really played a lot. He's 24, 25-ish. He's becoming, an older prospect. You kind of need to give him playing time no matter what. I don't care what your view of him is, like, just as a player overall. Like, sometimes players just need a chance. And Alan Roden, if he didn't have the shoulder injury, would also be one of the first guys to get a chance in the outfield. And with Outman not playing, Kreidler just not playing, like, when is the chance is going to be soon? And when Roden's healthy, it's after his rehab. I think we see him at the big league level if one of the outfielders starts to struggle. And Austin Martin's cooling down a bit. His OPS is now below 700. His chance is coming soon when he's healthy.
Yeah. There's certainly a spot for him on the roster, like you said, with Martin being not injured, but Martin just being ineffective over May. He had a OPS below 600. We talked about that last episode with Kyle, special guest. Go listen to that one if you haven't. But yeah, really unfortunate injury for Roden, because I think we all wanted him to be on the opening day roster. I think we all thought it was going to be Outman. It obviously didn't end up being Outman, but Roden's a guy, like you said, he's too old to be at AAA. He's too good to be at AAA, and you traded a really good pitcher for him. Like, there's no reason not to get a look at him.
Yeah, for me, just especially with how they're handling Outman. I mean, we have a pretty bad lineup that's really banged up right now, and we've got a backup center fielder that just does not get any playing time. So we clearly don't trust him to play. We clearly don't even trust him really as a defensive replacement, except in blowout games. So yeah, I mean, when Rodon's back up, I think it should be just a clear DFA for Outman, Rodon up, and just make the time, find a time for him to get in the lineup, make sure he gets his chances, because what we're doing right now with Outman is just not working.
Yeah, I don't want to beat this Outman horse. It's already dead, but at a minimum, again, Austin Martin clearly is overexposed. He's clearly more of a platoon bat. That would be 4-5 starts a week in right field for Rodon. He would be really good out there. He'd be mediocre at the plate. That's a fine player to at least hold it down for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And now a few other minor notes on the injury side. Garrett Acton had a few outings with the Twins, looked okay. He's still a month out from being an option from starting a rehab, so don't expect to see him very soon. And then on the prospect side of things, Charlie Soto, former first-round pick, the 34th overall pick, I believe in the 2024 draft, he's making his first start in over a year for the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles. It's first game in over a year. Like I mentioned, this is a rehab start. I'm guessing when all goes to plan, he'll be at Cedar Rapids here shortly. But this is a guy that has the stuff to be a back-end top 100 prospect if he can stay healthy.
Former first-round pick. There might be something there. I don't know.
But the thing that excites me about Soto is that he's still only 20 years old. And last year, in just very limited outings, he looked really good. And in the year before that, he struck out a lot of guys, even though his ERA was in the fives. Yeah, at low A. He still most definitely has the stuff. He's a guy that I'm been very excited to watch again, even though he went down with that injury. Again, him being 20, it's buying him a lot of time. And if he performs very well right out of the gate, I don't expect him to be otherworldly, but if he's going to strike out a lot of guys, that's going to really help him progress up the system.
Yeah, I just want to do a quick shout out. I mean, we might have a really, really cool rotation in Cedar Rapids soon between Dason Hill, Charlie Soto, and Red Quick. So,
yeah, that's definitely a minor league team to keep an eye on. Another minor league team to keep an eye on, the St. Paul Saints. Royce Lewis there with the Saints. He's off to just a hot start. I believe Insider has his stats for us with the Saints. He hit another home run today. Also played second base, like we said earlier. I believe he's the quickest Saint to 10 home runs in franchise history. This one was a grand slam. So Royce back to doing Royce Lewis things.
yeah, I mean, I don't have the stats pulled up off my head. I'm sorry. But yeah, he went down for mental reset, right? And he's getting that. He's crushing the ball. I think it's obviously a very hitter-friendly league that he's in right now. But if it's just Royce is a mental player, so if he's getting mentally right by beating up on 90-mile-an-hour center cut fastballs, great.
I have him pulled up here. So there's 358, 414, 981. That's the triple slash. Obviously, the 981 is great. The 358 is great. The 358 average and a 410 OBP. You'd like to see a little more plate discipline. The 11-3 strikeout to walk. Obviously, you want to see more walks. With AAA pitching, I really want the strikeout to walk to be almost even. But 10 home runs in 13 games is a St. Paul Saints record to start a season. So he's clearly probably good enough for AAA. We know that.
Yeah, so the last time Royce spent real time in the minors, this isn't including rehabs, which he's obviously done the last few years. He spent time in 2022, had an OPS of 939. He played 34 games there, so he's even better than that. Obviously, he's much older now, so you would expect him to be even better. But it is good to see. I mean, Matt Wallner has gone down there and done the complete opposite. He's kind of just completely off people's radars by now. But my question to you guys is, he's been down there for a few weeks now. He's absolutely torching the ball. Do you think that they should call him back up, immediately? We've seen Tristan Gray struggle at shortstop. They certainly have a spot in the lineup if they're open to playing him at second base or first base. God knows there's spots there to play him. So should they call him up now, or should they make him do this for, if not a month, at least another few weeks?
I think it's going to be a couple more weeks, and we might see him, I would say, towards the end of the month when, they start to realize when I think when I think Josh Bell might be ready for a DFA or just be traded for nothing down the line. That's when I think Royce Lewis comes back up. And if he wants to come, if they want to call him up sooner rather than later, I wouldn't be against it because, I think the mental reset's been good for Royce because the swing's a little bit different. He seems like he has his confidence back, and the confidence is just kind of what you need in a struggling player. Like these players just need to get their mojo back, and whether or not this is going to work out long term for Royce, it seems like he has kind of that mojo back. That he when he plays with a lot of confidence, he's going to crush the ball. Again, it's a question about whether it's going to translate or not, but I think you're not going to be, I'm not going to be against whether you call him up now or you call him up down the line. But I think he's proving himself that he's proving himself that he has his confidence back and that he should be up sooner rather than later.
So my Royce answer is I am ready to call him back up, but I have a way to get him playing time and get everybody playing time. That was actually my series takeaway, so I can spoil that now if you'd like, because it fits so well with the conversation.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Okay. My brilliant, I really should be the GM in my opinion, but my brilliant way to do this is actually quite simple. Austin Martin has been really bad against right-handed pitchers. He has a 72 WRC plus. So my solution is to put Clemens in right field and platoon him with Martin, and then you get Royce back up, and then him and Keishel can take the majority of the right side. However you want to align to second and first base, that's up to you. But I think that we saw today that they could really use some offense. Martin is not good enough against righties. Lewis is confident. We know he's a streaky player. We know when he's hot, he's confident. He's in his vibes. We know how good he can be. It would, I think it gets some people back at the ballpark. Pull the trigger.
I'm going to take a slightly different route than you guys, and I do want to wait for a little bit, but it's going to be when he's ready, and maybe that is now. But for me, this is probably Royce Lewis's last chance to be a contributing big leaguer for the Twins. He was a former first overall pick. We've seen what he can do in 2023 in the playoffs. When he's healthy and he's hot, he can carry a team. So I don't want to rush him back to a team that's 4 or 5 games under 500, that is a middling team, and just ruin what we think he can be. Like I said, it's his last chance. So I want to make sure all the boxes are striked, and just he's ready to come back up before we get him up for his last chance to contribute.
Yeah, that is a good point. The other thing that maybe is a possibility, the trade deadline, obviously, 2 months away now. Is there a chance they just keep him in AAA for, another month, let him put up a 1,000 OPS there, and then trade him, at the start of July?
I think if you wanted to trade him, unless you knew he was going to be horrible in the MLB again, I think if you just didn't vibe with him, you wanted him gone, I think you'd want to call him up, let him do a little damage at the big league level, because I feel like trading him off his AAA stats would be trading him at a really low value point.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but is it the argument I guess I would make, is it better to trade him off good AAA stats, or if he comes back up and struggles again, is that going to, lower the value even more? I guess that's what the front office is paid to do. That's why, Jeremy Zoll has an East Asian degree and is qualified to run the baseball ops.
Yeah, and really with Royce, I think, other teams are going to take a chance on him as a first overall pick if he's ever on the block or cut or whatever, because there's obvious talent in there. That's why he's showing out at AAA. But I think if there's a question of trading him, that would mean that he's at least serviceable at the big league level again. But we talked about it. He hasn't really been in over a year. So if he is contributing to the Twins in the next, week or in the next month or so, then maybe that's a possibility. But I doubt somebody's going to put a decent offer where the Twins are going to be blown away by it, or at least mildly intrigued by it. That at least would be satisfactory to fans, I guess.
Yeah, I'm team not trade him. I mean, his value is just so low right now. As annoying as he is to our fan base, and as frustrating as his quotes are, you just got to ride with the guy. I mean, we see what he can do. I like the idea of putting him at first base. We haven't had a really good franchise first baseman for decades. So try that there. If he sticks, great. If he doesn't, the experiment's over for me.
Yeah, I think that is likely how it'll play out. Some other minor news and notes from the series. Taj Bradley had another off start, allowed 4 runs, didn't go 5 innings. That's 2 in a row that he's been bad. We'll keep an eye on that. Probably talk about it more after his next start either way. Connor Prelip did bounce back. He went 6+ innings, allowed 4 runs. One of those was inherited, and he also was not helped by his defense. Much like today's starter wasn't helped by his defense. Tristan Gray had an awful defensive game. He's the first Twin with a 3-error game since Ryan Domit in September of 2012. That's per Brandon Warren, who does some work for Twins TV and also writes, I believe. Gray, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Tristan Gray has primarily been the shortstop for the Twins since they've moved Brooks Lee over to shortstop or over to third base, and he's returned from the paternity list. He's been actually worse than Brooks Lee has at shortstop. Coming into today, only at shortstop, he was worth -2 OAA in 39 attempts. Lee in 167 attempts was worth -5 OAA at the position. He had 3 errors today, so you can expect that number to crumble even farther. Are the Twins making a mistake here by playing Tristan Gray every day at shortstop against right-handed pitchers? The bat was good. It was really good this series. He had a 5 RBI game, so the bat is there, but the defense, you're making yourself even worse with Gray at shortstop over Brooks Lee.
Yeah,
I just don't think. Oh, you can go, Troy. I think we agree, but you can go.
Yeah, but I think we all agree on that. But I think this is just a stronger argument for Kalen Culpepper to come up sooner rather than later. His bat's been really good. It was off to a slower start to this year, but now his OPS is way above 850 at AAA this year. At AAA as a 22-year-old, he can play second base. He can play shortstop, and this is just my takeaway. My takeaway from a couple episodes ago. This infield just kind of needs a Kalen Culpepper, a guy that can reliably play the middle of the infield every day. It doesn't matter one of Tristan Gray or Orlando Arcia starts at shortstop or second base. Kalen Culpepper brings you stability to at least one of those positions every night. And he's not the greatest defender in the world, I'm saying, but he can play. His defense can be serviceable, but his bat can be really good. And the Twins just need youth in this lineup. We've talked about it all year long, that they just need the youth movement to come sooner rather than later. And Culpepper can provide that. If Gray's going to be this bad defensively, you have to find another option at short. And I don't believe Arcia is that guy. So it has to be Culpepper.
Yeah, I just want to say that to me, Gray at short is like a worse version of the same idea and argument with Clemens in center field, where yes, the bat is actually pretty good, but for that position, but he's a complete butcher, and it's one of the positions you can't have a butcher play in the field. So obviously, we all know Kreidler is the best shortstop on the team, but he can't hit. Arcia is an okay shortstop, probably not great anymore. He's an okay hitter. Gray is, of course, the best hitter, but he really can't field. Lee is an okay hitter, but he also really can't field, as Central talked about. And like Troy said, it's time for Culpepper. I think that it's just everyone else has too many flaws. Culpepper deserves a chance. He was a first-round pick. It's time to go.
And just an update on Charlie Soto. We mentioned him, because making a rehab start tonight. He struck out 2 in his lone inning of work so far and topped out at 99 down at Fort Myers. So that's pretty encouraging that, the velocity is still there for Soto despite him being on the shelf for about a year. Now he's back. He's throwing 99. That's a really encouraging sign to see.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So we'll keep monitoring that. We'll keep updating people on that, on Charlie Soto and other prospects. The last note we have on this series, Ryan Kreidler, just mentioned him. He played left field yesterday for the first time late in the game. That was over James Outman. So another example of Outman, not really being a factor on this roster, but that was a pretty long segment on the series. A lot of news and notes that we had to cover. So thanks to those writers that gave those updates. Again, that was Aaron Gleeman, Dan Hayes, and Declan Goff of Score North. So that's where we got all those notes from. After this break, we'll take a look at our stat of the week, hit hashtag Ask Twin Stakes. If you have a question, throw it in the YouTube comment. We'll get to that after the break, and then we'll do a short preview of the upcoming series with the Royals. Stick with us. And welcome back into Twin Stakes. Now we'll start to transition to taking a look at the Kansas City Royals series, but not before our stat of the week. The Twins are 6-1 against AL Central teams at Target Field. They swept the Tigers last month in a 4-game set, and then they won 2 of 3 against the White Sox today. The Royals come to town for 4, so if they can keep this going, a chance to get back into the thick of the AL Central.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, we've finally beaten up on the AL Central outside of just the White Sox, and the Royals are an awful baseball team, like I predicted, like nobody else in here did. So hopefully it's another good series for us to keep gaining some ground in the Central.
Yeah, we had a really fun stat from, I believe, Twin Stats on Twitter. The only other time the Twins were shut out on June the 3rd, which is today, was back in 1964 against the Yankees. Just a completely, really random stat brought up, but it was interesting enough because the winning pitcher was Whitey Ford, the losing pitcher, Jim Rowland, two, notable names from that era of pitching. But, just an interesting stat to take away.
Yeah, stuff like that is always interesting. Now we'll move to our series takeaway. Insiders already gave us his with his way to get Royce Lewis back onto the roster. So now we'll start with mine. Mine is that the Twins are going to have to sign, claim, trade, however they want to do it. They're going to have to bring in an outside starting pitcher. We see them going with the bullpen game tomorrow, as we'll talk about in a brief moment, but they simply don't have the starters here. They need a veteran, whether that's like, I don't even know. I don't have a name off the top of my head, but they're going to have to bring in somebody.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to throw a bullpen game out there every 5 games, but it's not really worse than when we had Simeon with Richardson going every 5 games. But I agree with you. We're going to need a veteran presence in the rotation. My takeaway is that, man, I just really miss Ryan Jeffers. Watching Alex Jackson and Victor Caratini catch 100% of the games is tough. It is not for the faint of heart. They struggle. Alex Jackson might be the worst defensive catcher I've ever seen. Caratini weekly grounds out every first pitch he's at the plate. So hurry up. Hurry back, Ryan Jeffers. I miss you.
My takeaway is that Luke Kishel's been really good the last month. It doesn't really show in the season statistics yet, but he's been an above average hitter. He's gotten on base over the last month or so. And he's been stuck around, the 7th, 8th part of the order. I would like to, see him just back in the 2nd or 3rd spot in the lineup, where he was at the beginning of the year. Because I think he's worked his way up to deserve that because he's gotten on base. He has the speed threat. He still has the speed threat. He's stolen a bunch of bases. I think he's deserved much better than the 8th or 9th spot. The 8th or 9th spot. It's just, he's not been great this year, but he's still a young player, just 23 years old. I think he kind of deserves a chance to make some impact in the top of the lineup. Brooks Lee's been playing there a lot. To me, it just feels like Lee hasn't been as impactful, but he's had some impactful moments in the 2nd spot. So it just on a game-to-game consistent basis, I think Kishel makes more sense to me in the 2nd spot of the lineup. But that's just me. I just really hope that he can continue that, maybe show off some power. He only has 1 home run this year, but with Lee or Kishel, you can kind of alternate between them and between, let's say, the 2nd spot or 7th spot in the lineup. That would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we'll transition to hashtag Ask Twins Takes for this week. We'll get through these quickly as we are running a bit long here. The first one from @MVP Jenkins on Twitter. You can see it on the screen. His question: does SWR get picked up by another team via waivers? We talked about this a little bit last episode. I think the answer to this one is almost certainly.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young mid-20s starting pitcher that has shown that he can fit in a 4 or 5 spot in rotation. So I think some team's going to take a chance on him.
We all know I'm not super high on him, but I think it's like 80-20 that he gets claimed. But I think, like Central said on our Sunday show, he's not going to get claimed because someone's going to trade for him before he gets claimed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see Troy just left. I think he's still working on that microphone. We'll see if he rejoins us. Now for our other question this week, this one from Carter Caderna. I believe that's how you say that. His is about a few guys that we've talked about. How close do you feel Kyler Fedko and Kalen Culpepper are from reaching the Minnesota Twins? Insider, let's start with you on this one.
Well, we've talked about it. If we were running the team, Culpepper would be here now. The Fedko one, so I think he's very close. My understanding is that's basically day to day, week to week. The Fedko one's interesting. Obviously, that's to take Outman's spot. I'm not really that interested in Fedko. I mean, it could be Fedko, but when Outman goes, it could be Fedko, it could be Gabby, it could be Mendez. Fedko, I honestly don't know because they don't seem to like him. They didn't call him up last year when they could have. So Fedko, I don't know if he'll ever make the team, to be honest.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you can go ahead, Will.
Well, I was just going to ask, Fedko was left off he was left off, so he was Rule 5 eligible for other teams, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think they're too high on Fedko either. I'm going to just completely pair insider. I think Culpepper should be up already, if not now, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And Fedko, just a longer time frame. I don't think they're in a rush to bring him up at all, really.
Yeah, I'm going to echo off what you guys say about Culpepper. And with Fedko, I've compared him to Anthony Prado in the past. He's just a guy that has hit really well at the minors, but he's just never going to get a big league chance, not here with the Twins. So it maybe you see him for like 5 at-bats in September, but that's it.
The other thing about Fedko is his part of his utility is backup center field. And we saw Buxton was out basically didn't play center for a couple weeks, and they went with their first baseman in center field over calling Fedko up. So, and now it looks like Buxton's feeling better. Kreidler can fill in. Roden will be able to fill in when he's back. Jenkins eventually. So they really don't have a high opinion of Fedko. I don't think he ever comes up.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he probably doesn't come up either. If he does, I think it'll be after the trade deadline, maybe like in a scenario where Buxton is traded back to Atlanta or something like that. I'm kind of on the other side of the argument for you guys. I want to see him. You don't, have a 900 OPS for multiple years in a row by accident. So I do think there's a little talent in there. Is he going to be a great player? Probably not. But if he's a guy that can, hit left-handed pitchers, pretty well, there is some utility for that. The defense is okay. He's also a guy that can play first base, I believe. So we'll see, I guess. And then I guess Kalen Culpepper, my answer is like everybody else. I think we'll see him shortly. Now we'll transition to looking at this upcoming 4-game set with Kansas City. The Royals have just been dreadful, last place in the AL Central after the Tigers swept the Rays this week to put some space between them and the Royals. They're 23-38, 22nd in batting average, 24th in OBP, 27th in OPS, and 27th in WRC+. So this is a team that simply can't hit the ball at all. The pitching side isn't any better. 22nd in ERA, 26th in xERA, 23rd in FIP. They are league average in strikeouts and K per 9, but they're 23rd in WHIP. So both the hitting and the pitching are bad, which I guess makes sense because they are one of the worst teams in the league.
Will, would you care to remind us about our AL Central predictions episode?
I mean, it's victory lapping at this point, but yeah, they've been awful. They've just been a really bad team. I didn't think they would be this bad at all, so I'll just take it. I'm happy with my prediction.
Yeah, and they are dealing with some injuries as well. Michael Garcia is day-to-day. I have him on my fantasy team. He's been a little disappointing, and now he's out with an injury. Cole Reagans is on the IL. Chris Bubich on the IL. Carlos Estevez still on the IL after his velo was way down this season. Jonathan India is out for the year, so they're not exactly healthy, but most of their names are in the lineup. Vinny Pasquantino's there. Michael Garcia has been healthy up until now. Bobby Witt is healthy and still really, really good. So they're a little beat up, but they're certainly not, like some of these teams that we've seen early on, like when we played the Astros. They're nowhere near that. Game 1, Thursday evening, a 6:40 first pitch. Seth Lugo, a guy that throws the kitchen sink at you, 2-4, 3.55 ERA, going up against Andrew Morris for the Twins in a bullpen game. He's 1-2, 4.07 ERA. We all presume Mike Paredes is going to get the bulk of work in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun to see Andrew Morris. I'm guessing they'll give him an inning or two like we've talked about, and Mike Paredes. I mean, he looks solid so far, so it'll be fun to see him get some bulk work and see what we can cobble together, see if Shelton can pull the right strings in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good, going to be some Travis Adams innings probably, which everyone will be excited for. And like you said, just try to pull it together, try to pull the right strings. And, a bullpen game like a month ago was really scary. Against a bad lineup, I'm actually not like horribly scared with the bullpen game anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Troy is dealing with some internet issues, so I'm not sure he's with us anymore. If he jumps back in, that'll be great. If not, rest in peace, Troy. Game 2 is 7:15 first pitch, an odd start time for this one. That's because this is an Apple TV production. Michael Walker gets the ball for the Royals, 4-3, 4.23 ERA, going up against Zebby Matthews. He's 1-3, 4.63 ERA. I'm interested to see Zebby in this one. He's had a few good starts and a few not so good starts. So this is a lineup, like you said, that he should dominate.
Yeah, Zebby's really struggled with the long ball, which has kind of been the story of his career. So, I mean, he's got the stuff. We've always seen that he has the stuff. It's just, can he not sit in the middle of the zone? This is a really bad lineup, like Central said. So hopefully he can have a bounce back start and look good like the guy that we all hope he can be.
Yeah, if Zebby struggles with this lineup, well, I think we're going to hold him pretty accountable. I'd be really disappointed with that. Another guy who's kind of struggled with the long ball, but who's absolutely owned the Royals is Joe Ryan. He's going to pitch game 3. That's a 110 start. We all know him. And then the Royals are pitching Luinder Avila, who's I think was a long reliever for them, who's been forced to start with the injuries. He's 1-2 with a 4.44 ERA. Again, we talk about the long ball. I want to highlight my guy, everybody's favorite, Kyle Isbell. If you remember, he had 2 home runs in our series in April this year. He now, 2 months later, has 3 total with a 654 OPS. So that means that's 2 homers in 3 games against the Twins and, 1 homer in 40 games, 50 games, whatever. How many is he hitting off Zebby and Ryan is my question.
He's going to hit.
Well, it's got to be at least 1, right? Like you said, he just owns the Twins, both at the plate and also in the field. He's one of the more frustrating guys to go against, him and Andres Jimenez, who's thankfully now out of the division. But Jimenez at least is like a decent player. Isbell is just not good at all against anybody else.
No, he isn't. And again, it's a 4-game series. He's going to hit 2 home runs and get 2 walks and get hit by a pitch and score 5 runs at least. I can pretty much guarantee that. If you're a betting man or woman, you can make a lot of money on DraftKings tomorrow or FanDuel, whoever wants to sponsor the show first. Let's get into
or if you're playing fantasy baseball, go pick him up. He's certainly not rostered.
Yeah, that's true.
Go add him for the weekend.
That's a free 100 points this weekend. But let's get into game 4. These are some actually good guys in fantasy. Noah Cameron versus Connor Prelip, 2 young lefties. Noah Cameron's 2-4 with a 4.22. He played the Twins in that weird rain game early in the year. They've struggled with him. Not a hard thrower, big changeup, solid pitcher all around. A little bit worse this year than last year, but he's a good pitcher. Connor Prelip, we all know him, 2-3, 5.26 ERA. He's of course a different kind of lefty. Cameron's all control and off speed. Prelip is a power pitcher, but this should be a fun one. 2 lefties, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and we see Jake Chess 1 here in the comments. He's going to be sure to bet on it. So hopefully he doesn't come back Sunday and demand some money from you, Insider.
Hey, he's doing us. He's going to, when he bets on things, it never happens. So he's going to win us the whole series. Thank you, Jake Chess.
He'll be celebrating that he got $100 for free.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my question overall on this series, we talked about some of the options at St. Paul for the Twins, specifically on the hitting side of things. The names I have in mind, Kyler Fedko, Royce Lewis, or Gabriel Gonzalez. Do the Twins make a roster move for performance, basically sending Outman out either before tomorrow's game or during the series? What do you guys think?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do. And usually they do tend to make these kind of roster moves right before, a weekend series, or if it's a 4-game series in this one. So maybe in the next 24 hours, maybe in the next few hours or so, we get sort of a move like a Gabriel Gonzalez, but I really can't. Um, I don't doubt they make this. I think it's more likely they make a move during the off day on Monday, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. But it's kind of hard to predict.
Listen, it's a beautiful weekend at Target Field. The kid's been raking at AAA. He's been playing good defense. His counterpart is one of the worst shortstop defenders in the league, albeit he had a 5 RBI game. I think we are on #the promotion watch for our one and only Kalen Culpepper.
Please don't put him in that. Please don't put that on him.
Yeah, you just gave me PTSD with that hashtag right there.
To be fair, the promotion eventually, he did hit like 5 home runs in his first 3 games. So I guess it's time to do it.
Then what has he done since then, I guess, is my question. But now we'll get into our series predictions. I'm going to go with 2-2 in this one. I don't have a lot of faith tomorrow. Lugo seems like a guy that has decent success against the Twins, and a bullpen game, while it has been better, I still not, have a lot of belief in Mike Paredes, even against a bad lineup. And then, they're more than likely going to drop another one. So I'm going to go 2-2 here.
I'm going to echo that for kind of the same reasons. The Royals have a lot of struggling players who kind of own us. Talked about Isbell. Noah Cameron fits that. Lugo's mostly fit that. Waka's actually really good. It's not a great pitching matchup. I feel pretty good about Ryan's game, but the others I don't feel great about. So 2-2.
I'm gonna go 3-1 because it's kind of hard for me to say that the Royals are on paper not a bad team. They're not this bad, but it's hard for me to say that it's that they can bounce back even against the Twins lineup like this, against this Twins pitching staff. Yeah, for their pitchers, sure, I think we'll have trouble hitting them, but I just think that the Royals just always disappoint you every weekend. It's just what I've noticed from their fan base. Even when they have a favorable matchup, they disappoint. And even though the Royals kind of owned us earlier in the season series, I think the Twins are playing better baseball right now objectively. So that's why I have a 3-1. I think they'll lose the Waka game on Apple TV. Maybe they'll drop the Noah Cameron game, but I have a 3-1. I'm pretty confident in that.
Listen, the Twins have made their money the last few years beating up on the worst teams in the AL Central. The Royals are the worst team in the AL Central. They're 23-38. On the road, they're 8-21. In their last 10 games, they're 3-7. I'm going to have us taking a clean sweep going 4-0 this weekend. I think the Royals are awful.
So there it is. That's our predictions. Falvey's Mattress going bold with another 4-game sweep over an AL Central team. Troy has 3-1, and then Insider and myself have 2-2. I'm interested to see what the Royals look like. They're blacked out where I'm at, so I don't ever get to see them play other than when they're playing the Twins, and that's been quite some time at this point. I'm curious to see if they look like a team that's just kind of rolled over and gave up on the season already.
The team might have, but I will say Bobby Wood is probably going to win the American League MVP. So they certainly have some talent, even if the team is basically cooked.
Yeah, and like you said, they do have some guys that traditionally have success against the Twins, but that's all we have for today's episode. We'll be back Sunday live on YouTube. I believe it'll just be myself and Troy for that one, recapping this 4-game set against Kansas City. Please like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, whether that's on YouTube or Spotify, as it does help the channel grow. You can follow us on Twitter at Twins Takes Pod. We have been posting shorts after every game. That's something we'll continue to do. It's a fun thing to do to recap the games as they go by. As here we talk more, granular things than, just breaking down the games in general. So that's something we've been doing lately. That's at Twins Takes Pod if you want to watch those, or on our YouTube where you're listening to this. We do have a few articles. They're a few weeks old at this point, but you can also find those on our Twitter. There was one again about Travis Adams from Twins Insider. He's back in the big leagues, probably due to pitch quite a bit tomorrow. So we'll see how his statement of best 7 ERA pitcher ever holds up in that one. We'll have an update for you on that one Sunday. And then thanks to everybody who asked a question this week with hashtag #AskTwinsTakes. You can use that hashtag again to be involved next week. For Troy, Falvey's Mattress, Twins Insider, I'm Twin Central. This was Twins Takes. Thanks for listening, everybody.